Welcome back. It's been a long time.
It's been 2 weeks.
It's been 2 weeks and the train is going hard.
We live by a train.
Yeah. So this is the first ever episode 22 of the SuperFunPack Moviecast. We're doing a little different thing. We're just doing the non-spoiler review for Avengers Infinity War. And then, if you want to watch the spoiler review, the full spoiler review, click the link down below and it'll take you to the spoiler review and we'll discuss everything that happened in Avengers Infinity War.
I'm just gonna say, guys, we're gonna start doing mainly new movies instead of just any movie we're watching, just to kind of have more better reviews. So instead of doing a lot of older movies, or if we find a movie that's just amazing that maybe no one's heard of, we'll also shout that out in our podcast. Sorry for the delay. As everyone might not know, I am a PhD graduate student, and I was working on getting my first author paper published. So I've been a little busy. That's why, or maybe I should just say a little crazy. Poor Chris, I've been crazy. So we haven't really done much, and I'm sorry about that, but everyone cross your fingers. We've submitted, and we're waiting to hear back, so.
Yeah. So that's also why we didn't have many videos uploaded and why there's nothing on the channel for the past few weeks. Not just because of that, but your family came over.
Yeah, my family came from California to visit, and
there's a lot of hecticness about it.
Our friend Trevor finally had his MMA fight, so just a lot of stuff going on. We apologize for the delay, and we're going to be back on top of everything starting now, and yeah.
So let's talk non-spoilers.
No spoilers, okay.
For Avengers Infinity War. It's 10 years in the making. They hammered that home so much. 10 years. It's been 10 years.
Okay, so Chris has been reading these grandiose reviews about it online where people are like, this is the grand all and all be all of films.
Of all superhero movies.
It's not.
It's not. It's a really good movie.
It's really good. It's a great movie, but it's not okay, I'm just going to say, the one movie that has always stuck with me of the movies was Winter Soldier.
Winter Soldier is my favorite.
It was my favorite. Movie. This was... The action sequences were on par with Winter Soldier. Yeah. The emotional depth, while they tried to get that emotional depth, I felt Winter Soldier was better. There was just... I don't know, I liked Winter Soldier.
I think Winter Soldier has a more cohesive story, a more solid story. This, with Avengers Infinity War, the story is really good.
It is very good. But because there's so many characters, they didn't fully get to explore all aspects of it.
Yeah, and that is the crippling part of this movie. It's not really a crippling.
No, it's a good movie. They did a good job of what they had.
It's more like that is the stuck gear of the movie. There's so many parts and so many people all over the place. Where we have Captain America here, and we have Iron Man over here, and we have the Guardians over here, and then Thor over here. It's real hard to try to get all these characters converging all in one spot. And they try their best to do it, but it's the fact that there's so many people all over the place, and there's not just... Oh, here's the Guardians, and here's Cap, and there's Spider-Man, and there's...
Is it recording?
Yeah, it's recording. But here's Spider-Man, and here's all these characters. There's also the side characters. And then here's the main villain team, and, here's how they all interact with each other. And it's very, It's just, if you haven't kept up with any of the movies, if you're I like Captain America and I only watch the Captain America movies, this movie is going to be a fucking struggle for you to deal with.
Yeah. So it's almost like... So I think, we're criticizing the movie, obviously, but they did do a good job. It's a good movie. You'll definitely enjoy it. But what Chris said is, if you don't already know what every character's backstory is, the movies are almost like, so Thor's story is literally a direct continuation from Ragnarok.
From Ragnarok, yeah.
Guardians of the Galaxy
is a direct continuation of Guardians Volume 2.
Right. Black Panther, you need to watch Black Panther to understand what's going on. You need to have watched Civil War to understand where a Black Widow, Scarlet Witch, Captain America, Hawkeye, Vision. You need to have watched Iron Man. You need to watch those to understand where these characters are, their emotional states, and that helps explain like their character choices.
Yeah.
So if you haven't seen all the movies, and even if you just don't really remember them, you might want to watch them, and it will definitely add to this film.
Yeah.
If you haven't, you can still enjoy the film. As everyone knows, the Avengers movies, they can be as simple as an action flick or as character-driven as you want, depending on how much you want to dig into the characters.
Exactly.
Which is what comic books have always been about. You can just enjoy them, or you can really delve into it. And so I think this movie is kind of reminiscent of a comic book in that way.
Yeah.
And that you can read it as little or as much as you want.
What this movie did really well is it felt like a comic book event.
Mm-hmm.
Because like in comic books, be it DC or be it Marvel, you get your main events. Like with Spider-Man, you got the Spider-Verse, you got the Infinity War, you got the Civil Wars, you got right now in DC it's Dark Knight Metal.
Mm-hmm.
But then you also had the Crisis on Infinite Earths and stuff like that. It's like all these crazy events where all heroes need to come in to deal with the big problem. This is what that movie felt. It felt like you read comics. Like each movie was its own comic book. And then the Avenger movies were the event. With this one, they really hammer that home. Like, this is an event. This isn't just Avengers where they beat Ultron or beat Loki again. This is a big deal that they have to deal with. And we see the Avengers finally get really tested. And overall, like, the pacing of this movie was really spot on. Like, it didn't feel, like, out of place. It did jump around a lot.
It did. It did
jumped around a crazy ton. But, again, if you followed every movie, it doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
But if you didn't, you would be confused in certain spots. By all means, it's a fantastic movie. It's worth a watch. Like, it's worth you going to the theater and watching it.
I liked it, but, okay, you said the pacing was good. I actually can't comment on the pacing because I could not fully get into the movie because I'm not fucking kidding, guys. Anytime a new character, a new superhero showed up on screen, the audience clapped. It took me out of the film. And if you're a 2 or 3-year-old, you know, you have a little kid and they go, Captain America! Okay, it's a child. They can't contain themselves. I get it. But if you're a 35-year-old fucking man and you go, Captain America! I'm gonna get pissed. Because you and I paid $15 per ticket to watch this goddamn movie, and these people were fucking clapping the entire time. I was mad. Okay?
Yeah.
I wanted to watch the film. People were clapping. People were talking constantly. So I can't, like, really say if the film, like, felt drawn out or not, because I was only watching it in essentially 15-minute increments, because I kept watching and then being like, oh. And then watching and being, oh. So.
Also, another big problem with this film is there's a crap ton of plot holes.
Yeah.
And that is the problem. Like, the problem is the fact that there's so many characters around, and you could chalk it up as like they had no time. They're all trying to rush in, blah blah blah. I get that, but there's a lot of things that these characters could have done that could have stopped the main problem.
That wasn't actually the real problem. I think the real problem is they make half of these characters don't have defined powers. As in Iron Man, every movie he's more and more powerful. Somehow Captain America is more powerful than Scarlet Witch. Somehow Doctor Strange all of a sudden, who's like a magician, but for some reason all he could do in this movie was like make shields. Like, they did not fully define everyone's powers.
Because in the comics, like, Doctor Strange is retardedly powerful.
So, and
like
then even
ridiculously
Thanos,
powerful.
he was like a really strong guy, and you're like, okay, so he's strong, so how come no one can, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then even like the Infinity Stones, they made a big deal with Infinity Stones, but I'm sorry, if you don't read comic books or play the video games, they never even said the words really Infinity Stones. They kept saying like Tesseracts and stuff. They actually had to give like a 5-minute thing of what are the Infinity Stones, and that was it.
And it was like Thor listing them out. And he's like, there's power, reality, time,
and I'm
space,
like, wait, the Asgardians knew about this the whole time? Like, that was the
They knew of one.
But that was the biggest thing that, like, we didn't know what the Infinity Stones were. We didn't understand what their powers were. We didn't understand how they worked. All the characters, they don't have defined power sources, so all of a sudden one person's more powerful than another, and, like, how the fuck is Black Widow more powerful than Scarlet Witch? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
because she's able to go toe-to-toe with one of the main bads.
But Scarlet Witch wasn't. So that's why you were like, wait, what? So that really bugged me, and I think it's what you've been talking about this whole time. Chris is always saying that it's because Marvel is writing themselves into a hole, and I think it's exactly that. They made the characters as strong or as weak as they need them to be for each particular movie, but they never explicitly defined what their powers were, or like the limits. So then now we get to this movie, they can make them as powerful or as weak as they want them to be to fit the occasion. And I don't think that was a good idea. I think instead that they should have fully defined these characters so they can have a movie that pushes them.
Yeah.
Whereas right now, I'm like, you can't push them. Like, you can't push Spider-Man because I don't know what Spider-Man's limits are. Like, they never fully described that. You know, guys, Spider-Man, a lot of people don't know this, he actually, his power is super strength. Like, he's ridiculously strong. It's not the webs that's his power, it's his strength. But in this movie, all he did was use his webs. Because,
like, Spider-Man has multiple powers. He can stick to walls, he has the Spidey sense that we actually get to see in this movie.
Yeah.
We get the proper Spidey sense. It's not like he can see things move in slow motion and shit like that. He knows danger's on its way. Mm-hmm. And it's up to him to react. If he does not react, he dies. But the webs are something he's created, but he is proportionally as strong as a spider.
Right, and they don't show that. So, I don't know, that was my biggest flaw. I think the biggest flaws of this movie is it's such a big movie, and it was supposed to have been building up to it, but they didn't define what the Infinity Stones were. We should have known this sooner.
Spider-Man has a healing factor.
Yeah. We should have known this sooner. They didn't define all the characters' limits and weaknesses. They tried with Thor and Thor Ragnarok. They did a better job with Thor, and even the Guardians a little bit, but still, we still don't actually know what Quill's powers are, or if he has any powers, because he's half Celestial, right? Yeah. So, they fully didn't define, like, half these characters' powers. While they did a good job, each segment, like, each character story is really good, and they all come together, you know, to make the movie. But I still think they could have done a better job of trying to weave everything together a little bit more, keeping it more cohesive, because sometimes it did feel like disjointed movies that were about the same event, but happening in isolated situations. I thought they could have done a better job of that. But I give them credit because that's incredibly hard to do.
With as many characters
that they have to work with. As they are. But other than that, and there's plot holes. But I think all those plot holes fully go to just they didn't define the characters enough. If they had defined powers a little bit more, I think it could have been a lot better. But that was it. Those are my main points that I want to talk about.
And it's like I know it feels like we're nitpicking and stuff like that, but
that's kind of our job.
But it's a really great movie. It's just there's these little things that if you keep picking at, it becomes a bigger problem.
Well, because we could sit here and get in super long arguments about the plot holes all because they didn't explicitly define what their powers are.
Yeah.
And it's still a good movie, guys. It's fun. It's a lot of fun to watch. They put a lot.
It didn't feel that long.
It didn't feel that long.
Even though it was 2:45.
Yeah, and they did a really good job of every character was true to their character, even though they're in a different movie in a different universe. There was a lot of emotion. They did a good job introducing Thanos. Yeah. It was a great movie. I really enjoyed it.
You should definitely watch it.
You'll like it. I just think Marvel really needs to think about this for their next movies, especially, I don't want to say it because that's kind of a spoiler, but for their next movies, just really think about explicit definitions of the powers, and I guess they're getting, I know it's a comic book movie, but grounding their characters' personalities. Like, Captain America has become bigger and bigger and bigger. I mean, he's just a super strong dude. Like, he, in this movie a little bit, I think even in the last movie, he's become like Captain America. He's the best. He's stronger. Like, I'm sorry, Scarlet Witch's powers she's more powerful than him, but she's not. Like, that makes no sense. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, so I think their characters need to become more grounded, and it's going back to, I understand that it's a comic book, but a movie is not a comic book. So you need to change for the medium that you're in.
Yeah.
And that's my thing. But it all goes back to defining character strengths, because I still don't understand what Scarlet Witch's power is. Like,
yeah, magic, I guess.
That's all I have to say for non-spoilers, guys. Take it away, Chris.
For me, if you're going in and saying like, oh, which character bites it and which one doesn't, don't go into the movie like that.
No.
Because either you'll be really shocked or really disappointed. Overall, this movie has stakes not like any other superhero movie had.
Thus far, yeah.
Like, even if we're going back to like Dark Knight and the Nolan movies, they had stakes, but it wasn't as crazy as this.
This movie definitely changed the stakes.
Yeah.
And that when you go in all the other movies, you legitimately could say, my character's not going to die, that's not going to happen. But this one, you actually don't know what's going to happen. It definitely changed the game. But that's what happens with all comic books. The end event is always the game changer. So.
Yeah. So, in this case, this is the game changer for the Marvel movies. We can see where they're trying to shift into. And as the new phase comes up, like phase 4 or 5 we're going into, after Avengers 4, we can see what's going to happen next. But this is definitely a setup to Avengers 4.
Which should be coming out next year, right?
It's coming out next year around the same time.
Huh? Oh, okay, I'll ask you later.
Alright, so, well, that was our non-spoiler review of Avengers Infinity War. If you want to watch the full spoiler review, click the link down below, or you can go on SuperFunPack.com and we'll have that there, or you could just find us on our YouTube channel at SuperFunPack. We are going to bust this movie open when we talk about spoilers. But if you like the movie, let us know. If you didn't like the movie, also let us know. What was your favorite part in the movie? And we'd like to discuss it with you guys. We are Chris and Jen, and this was the SuperFunPack non-spoiler movie podcast. Bye.